This is things you might not have heard coming into you from November 24th, 2025 from Little Rock, Arkansas, the actual from part. Here with you with 10 stories for this Monday. We'll give you 10 stories on Monday and we'll give you 8 for the rest of the week, Tuesday through Friday. That you help this team, this conversation will give you an update to get your week started here and your day started with some stories to chat about. You helped us pick these stories out, not just a pure rundown coming straight from watching someone on mainstream media. We actually go through and ask you throughout using our feeds what stories you think are really worth talking about at the end of the day or technically beginning of the day, as we have right here and begin the week for your Monday here. Now the Conversation Project brings you this here, and this is your home for headline news, information, and pop culture references that are worth chatting about. We hope that we pick the right ones. Today we talk about the Ukraine peace talks and how peaceful they may actually be or not, the G20 summit declaration and how declarative it is or not without US involvement, and Childish Gambino is in the news explaining what happened on his tour last year and how you should maybe go get checked up. Plus, 7 other stories for the 10 to make up this morning's broadcast. Morning, because I do this for you live. Right now, it is 5:30-ish a.m. Central Time in Little Rock, Arkansas. Hopefully, you're joining us live. Let us know how it's going. Or if you watch us on a replay or on the hot takes, let us know what you enjoy about our news. Let's get into the news for today for this November 24th, 2025. It is Turkey Week, so we'll have a couple days off this week doing some things and some special things as time allots with us to chit chat about things going on. Kick things off right now with the biggest story out there, which is Ukraine and the war going on as the US and Western allies and Ukraine actually met in Geneva to advance a new peace plan for the war between Ukraine and Russia. The US, Ukraine, and European partners outlined what's going to be an updated and refined peace framework. That's what we're saying in the quotes, if you will, in Geneva. Officials emphasized the sequencing and the verification over slogans. Essentially, it wasn't just talking points and blah, blah, blah. It was some work. Now, some pitched security guarantees from Kyiv came out, so they actually had some saying this today, and it was phased with some withdrawals, which Washington stressed sanctions, a relief that would be conditional and reversible as things worked out. The allies agreed to keep negotiations low temperature, documents first, photo ops later, to avoid derailing the peace plan with any politics, and that's basically what we had right here. Now, Moscow's initial reaction was dismissive. Their reaction, most of these things are dismissive. But mediators say that technical working groups will reconvene within weeks over the deals. Coverage of this has been quick and simple as Marco Rubio essentially went overseas this weekend to work on it. And as I'm watching some recap of this right now, to Monday morning, they're doing this, the photo ops, they're doing this, the handshaking. They're all wrapped up for this going on. So it is what it is from start to end. It's been pretty much low key. It's been a very low key news weekend, if you will, oddly enough. But as we're getting out of government shutdowns and things are coming back to a normalcy, we're getting more news stories here and dealing with more things that needed to be done, on day one, if you will. We'll see how this one stacks up towards any sort of actual agreement towards peace, because in most cases with these things, it's Russia that's kind of holding things back. Meanwhile, over the weekend, G20 summit in Johannesburg adopted a declaration at the start of the summit and just kind of went through the whole thing and has sung those praises the whole time, which was highly unusual, of course, to say at the beginning, even though the U.S. boycotted and criticized the hostess position up in the first place. The language balanced the Gaza Ukraine flashpoints that are going on right now, and with all the G20 still doing their work, with the information and debt relief that's happening around the world. The declaration is basically timed to aim to lock consensus early on essentially all the conflicts, all the struggles, all the things that are making people, let's say, poor and hungry right now around the world. South Africa framed the move as proof that the forum still works without U.S. buy-in because we weren't there at all. Expect Washington to minimize the practical effect of the G20, the rest of the nations trying to come together and do something, even if the U.S. is saying we're not part of this thing here. The G20 declaration is a front and center type of thing because they've said it right up front. This is what we're working on. And South Africa, despite the South African things that we apparently have with the United States issue, that one was a fairly gracious and fairly good host for this project. We'll see if the declaration and any words coming out of it will go to stick. A contract that hopes will be stuck by Warner Brothers, as Paramount, Comcast, and Netflix are all putting in formal bids in their battle to take over the very troubled broadcaster. Multiple suitors, formal bids, all trying to buy or get parts of the Warner Brothers discovery, escalating a once speculative storyline, which was, the big thing about the WB, to a live transaction cycle to just basically get the parts that work. Paramount Skydance wants CEOs plus libraries. Comcast eyes the new sports synergy, and Netflix would basically cherry pick assets without any linear baggage. They don't care about the TV part. They just want stuff they can put on and off and their streaming service. The Warner Brothers Discovery bidding war is basically turning the debt into something that's worthy of something being out there. TNT sports liabilities are antitrust tolerances after the Metacourt win, and different markets, the same regulatory issues are going on. It's a big deal with a bunch of big things that all need to be regulated separately, and they all owe money in their own rights. Basically, they're all taking each other down. There's not anything that's super positive or super profitable because of the way the markets work right now. And the three here, plus there's some other suitors trying to pop in there, getting bits and pieces of it, or buying the whole thing outright, which would probably be the wrong thing to do, is going to be a sign of who's got the stick, who's got the money, and who can actually hopefully make this work. Warner Brothers Discovery in a couple different iterations has not worked. So look for this to be a big deal going forward, as Warner Brothers Discovery, your favorite stations that you may not want to admit to. They own CNN, and I watch them all the time. They own TNT. They own the sports networks. All the things that are there that are bits and pieces of things you may enjoy, without the major scale that is the full armor of being secured by actual cash money. This is a tough one to take in, and this is something that's basically kind of flushed in late last week, and we're just not getting a chance to talk about it air done this Monday. But this will be something that will grow into something really big. And I have friends, I have people I know out there who are nurses, who have nurses in their families, and trust me, they know that their ladies, their men, their guys doing this work are professionals. I will give all the props to all the professional nurses who were there to basically hold me down, literally hold me down and fight me while I was in the hospital weeks ago, fighting them over refusal to acknowledge I was having a heart attack, when I kind of was. But the Trump administration is reclassifying nursing, saying it no longer qualifies as a professional degree. This is getting a lot of backlash, a lot of people scratching their heads, a lot of what the F's from this one. The Education Department, which is doing its thing to, eliminate itself, remove nursing and any program similar to nursing out of the professional degree status, lowering the federal loan ceilings and igniting backlash from hospitals and schools. The advocates for nursing warn that the nursing reclassification will choke pipelines amid staffing shortages, and administrations frame this as loan reform. Practical impacts to this include many graduate nursing students will face tighter borrowing caps and last-minute financing scrambles for finishing up their degrees, getting into some degrees, not many people getting into it because there's less money going into the actual need. Now, the background behind this is professional degrees need many more people in professional degrees. That's what we're paying for these visas and whatnot. So if we put more money for loans or for grants or to schools to train people professionally, you have a bigger pool of people to pull from to have those jobs taken care of. If they're not there, you have less of a pool, mostly because they have to pay for it on their own and people can't quite afford to get into the way. It's a barrier to entry. We need less barriers to entry for these things. Meanwhile, we're putting up more. Quick step in with the Slender Man, or at least with Morgan Geyser, one of the women who was convicted in the Slender Man killings, or I say stabbings, since they didn't actually kill the young lady. Police confirmed that Morgan Geyser was detained in Illinois after removing her monitor device and leaving a Wisconsin group home. Capture followed a rapid bulletin cycle with security cam images and shared nationwide to find her quickly. Experts expect renewed scrutiny over supervision of protocols for high-profile offenders in community placements. This was something where Geyser was giving a plea to go to a group home to get psychiatric help instead of having a full conviction in jail, and was able to, in this case, cut her ankle monitor and leave the group home and try to escape. She was found essentially in a bus station somewhere near Chicago, sleeping from her escape. And she was pretty quickly reapprehended and taken back into custody. It is the 24th of November. We are almost through this year. November's almost finished. December's almost here. Tomorrow will be 25. 25 will be 25. Tomorrow will be 30 days till Christmas, the 25th of November. So you have no excuses. We'll be reminding you every single day. But what we also want to remind you right now is this is the time where people start to slow down, start to get into the spirit in some cases, get down with the spirit as the holidays come in. So we want to remind you that there's still bad things happening, unfortunately, and we want to help you get through them by having more information on them, even if they're these quick informational bites, and having a chance to chat them up with us in conversational manners. So we need your help to get us through the holiday season, to help you get through the holiday season of the new stuff. So the news that gets kind of lacking, we will do what we can going forward. Now, let's be honest. We're very, very small. We're very, very tiny in the grand scheme of things, and the resources are low. But what you can do to help will help the conversation. So the simplest thing to do that costs you very little is like, share, and subscribe. Like, like the video you're watching right now, like other videos we have going on our channels, and watch like some of our other platforms, so that we get more people engaged there. The algorithms will share it with more people if they see more people engage with it. And I know I'm doing good news, doing great commentary, stuff like that. Share with like-minded people. Hopefully they will enjoy it and share it as well. And of course, if you're not seeing me natively in your feeds because you're not subscribed, subscribe. Subscribe on X and Facebook, where you can also help us out by picking stories, engaging the stories in the feed. We'll put out stories throughout the day, let you know what stories you're looking towards for our recaps and for our hot takes. And if you engage in those very, very big, we know to jump on those stories exclusively. And of course, on YouTube, where you can also become a member. That helps us out financially. You can also buy merch there, helps us out financially. You can go to our partnerships page at our website or click on any of our sponsors there. Help us financially going forward there as well. The Ohio officer who fatally shot a pregnant woman has been acquitted. Jury found the officer not guilty in the death of Takaya Young, the pregnant woman shot in a grocery store parking lot. The case hinged on the use of force reasonableness, and apparently the jury found the force use reasonable. Verdict caps months of protest and conflicting narratives around vehicle as weapons scenarios. So part of this is a bigger, really strong deal that you may want to go deeper into the story here. Click the links and go into it for a quick recap. It's not going to deep explainers of Ohio self-defense and police force statutes of what was happening here. This is one that, if this were a few summers ago, would have been a part of the summer of Black people being killed by police officers. That would have been maybe a bigger deal on the scale of actually a much bigger deal on the scale of what was being covered on the news. We've had some high profile cases of police officer involved shootings and things going on. This is one that sort of got missed in the shuffle, lost in the shuffle for whatever reasons. And it's one that may be a bit closer to home when you go to details than you think. Federal government is now requiring automakers to use female crash test dummies in future safety testing. The DOT endorsed the Thor '05 FEF female crash test dummy and signaled the intent to integrate it into the NCAP and safety rules, an overdue step towards sex-aware testing. Now, here's the deal. The crash test dummy, Vince and Earl from back in the day, were all generic. And the kids, they were smaller. The pets were smaller. There wasn't one that actually lived up literally to the stature of a female. The body parts weren't there. The nuances between a male and female in a crash has never really been tested very much because it hasn't been. As a person who stood by with a friend of mine a few days ago who was in a car crash, a female person went through a car crash. It's pretty intense watching the whole thing. Being with the car crash myself, knowing how they work out there, and knowing how she survived it and how people go through those things make a big deal, and how the actual data works towards different bodies makes a difference. The nuance is real, but the rule is not quite final in what's going on. But they do have the start and do have the dummies that will now stand up to the impact as females. See what's going to happen. We will see what happens. Now, for context, women face higher injury and fatality in recent crashes, mostly because of body density in what's happening. The force coming from an airbag is intense. The force from a car that hits you is obviously intense. So automakers are trying to ensure that they are doing what they can to live up to the standard, not necessarily because they want to, but because it's being forced on them, obviously. But they're going to do what they can to live up to this new standard going forward. Wrapping things up with some celebrity type stuff that just we need to fill things out for this. But it is conversational in a way that a lot of this is head scratching. Some of this is when you will get the urge to check yourself up, checking on yourself. But here's one that started off with Kevin Spacey, who was in the news recently, a few days or weeks ago, talking about being homeless. He is now addressing the rumors about his living situation and talks about the homeless reports, saying them words weren't exactly what he said. Interviewed that triggered headlines that he was homeless. Casey or Spacey is now posting some clarifications. He's been living in hotels and Airbnbs and not homeless in the collectural sense. He doesn't own a home, but he has the means to stay in various places for various times of time. Coverage whiplash is underscoring how a single quote can drive a narrative and then needs to be cleaned up afterwards. Spacey, who has a whole lot of cleaning up for his career and things he's said and done in the past, has work to do on those cases. But framing him as financially inviolable, that is true. If he could get, if people would stop blacklisting him now, he gets some movie roles. He'd have plenty of money. But he is not, living on the streets. He just doesn't have a natural home to stay in that's his to go through to put on some sort of map of the stars, if you will. Let's go to Donald Glover or Childish Gambino specifically because during the 2024 Childish Gambino World to World Tour, Donald Glover suffered a stroke and some other things. While on stage at Camp Flog Gnaw in 2025, Donald Glover said that he had a stroke during last year's tour and later undergoing two surgeries for a heart hole and a broken foot. He went in having issues with his vision, like a little pain in his head, and then he ended up finding out he had a stroke, some holes in his heart, and a broken foot, which sometimes those things happen. You just don't know to stop and see what's going on. He explained that health scare led to a broad cancellations of what's going on. Basically said it was a their health stuff. They said it and they did it and trying to reschedule, but it was a serious health scare, a very very serious health scare that could have been worse. So keep an eye out on yourself, keep an eye on the folks around you, and don't take some of these things lightly. And yes, it might have been a big deal to get those tickets to see Childish Gambino and miss out on the experience. Guess what? We still have Donald Glover to entertain us and to enlighten us and to tell us, hey, dude, go get checked out if something's not right. Pot, kettle, something not right, didn't get checked up, almost didn't get checked up. We could not be having this discussion with each other right now if that were the case. Wrapping up our celebrity grab bag with Bill Maher and Larry David, essentially, as Bill Maher used his closing finale season for the season, or basically, I don't know if it's a season finale or to see closing up for holidays. If he's going to come back in the spring, Bill Maher and his show used his closing segment to blast Larry David, going back into the little tiff they're having about the Trump dinner because it was actually a fairly touching piece, but he used the Larry David thing, I guess, to kind of spark it off. And this is why I'm not a real big fan of Maher's comedy these days because it doesn't seem funny. Bill Maher is jumping on the bandwagon of not fighting with your relatives at Thanksgiving dinner, not fighting relatives in family time, not using this to be the super progressive in the home of the super MAGAs and causing food fights for no reason, which is not a bad thing. But this came about essentially, or at least tied it into the tiff that Larry David sort of started, maybe with Bill Maher, after Bill Maher had dinner with Donald Trump weeks ago, and then David just basically called it dumb. So Maher called the actual back and forth dumb and childish, but basically brought it back to life and made it a big talking head going forward. So if you're looking for something to complain about by two complainers, you have Bill Maher and Larry David complaining about their Trump dinner time and all that working out there with the headlines there. Is it relevant? Yes, it's relevant because this week is Thanksgiving and you'll be having time, spending time, and it's back in the day, it was more cliche, more funny, more running gag that you may have a relative that was a little extra on the other side, if you will, and didn't like the way these young kids did stuff. Nowadays, it's a real big debate that comes out and very heated when a lot of things happen. There's a lot of things going on. We had some stories today about administration things that don't seem to make any sense, but they're pushing it, and people who are pushing the administration who love that guy will follow along even at the detriment of themselves. It's human nature. But Larry David and Bill Maher won't be having any sort of dinners together, but Bill Maher would like you to join in with your family, enjoy them, even if you're not enjoying so much the conversation. And if the conversation gets rough, step away, take a breath, enjoy the people while you have them, as opposed to going through the fights that we tend to have these days. Anyone listening to fight about at the table, let's not fight about the now. Or maybe you can fight about it, if you want to, but we can talk about the history of the past, things we've actually blasted past, and things we're going through. Because there are plenty of historical things that we can dispute. We can go back and forth. We can say, "Hey, we should do this better." But I have another platform, another program based under the larger umbrella we have for more than media. That is the history is every day. And at the website historyiseveryday.com, you can get bits and pieces of it to bring into your home, bring into your life, bring into your head any way you need to. We have three real crown jewels a part of this one. One is the newsletter, History is Every Day, which you can go to the website and you can get those everyday postings. You can also go to the website, click link for subscriptions, and get it in your email inbox. We'll give you 12 things that happened on this day in history. Also, 7 people born, some people who died on this day. Some people are like, "Oh, I forgot this person died this day." It's like, "Oh, I forgot about this fact before." Hey, I didn't know this person's birthday. It's things like that. You get those in short, quick versions on the web via your YouTube by going to subscribing to the This Day in History podcast. Video podcast gives you three bits of history, 3 people born and 3 people who died in this day. And as we kind of get back into the groove of things, we go into our own sort of deep little history takes on things back and forth. So you can see and hear and understand and learn some of the things on a quirky take that we do as a conversation project, sort of bent on things with our history takes, which are also on YouTube and in the podcast form as well. So you can get those and get and watch those as well as they come up. But check it out at our website, historyeveryday.com. This is another big project. It used to be a big part of things you might not have heard because you may not have heard these things in history. It keeps the show from running over time in theory, although we're at 25 minutes now, so we're running on this Monday. So let's wrap it up for this Monday. Tell you the details. The big things are our website. This is theconversationproject.com, our email address, the conversation inbox at gmail.com, and our Facebook and our X feeds where you can follow along with the news stories we're posting all day long to see what stories will gather the right amount of moss so that we can actually bring them up the next day or know that you guys want to keep chatting about those stories as well. The updates to the stories, the ones that you really are engaging in, the ones that sort of fall by the wayside, you let them fall by the wayside. There's a lot of news going on in this span of time. I made note that this morning, as I was prepping for this newscast, I watched about 2.5 hours of news. I'm up that early. Of news coverage that was a live person, regurgitating news stuff like that in bits and pieces. And literally, the Childish Gambino story was 4 times in that batch. 4 times, slightly different each time for people who tune in and out because it's not. I'm the only nerd that watches all these things all the way through. Um, it is what it is. So there you go. So we want to make sure you're getting in on the right news and the right time. We think we got you covered here. Today has been Monday, November 24th edition, 2025 of Things You Might Have Heard. I'm Jay Cleveland Payne. Thank you so much for being a part of the show with us today. It has been a pleasure. It has been an honor, especially after I guess it's been 4 weeks since the big deal happened. A lot more perspective, a lot of new things going into what's going on. So um, make sure as you're prepping for your time with friends and family for this week, or maybe you're not going to get that time, I'll find time to make a phone call and reach out anyway. It's time to celebrate. It's time to give thanks. Time to be thankful for those people, even the ones that kind of get on your nerves, because without them, life would be a whole lot less interesting. With that, I will bid you adieu for this one. We'll try to do much shorter versions for Tuesday and Wednesday. We'll probably be off Thursday and Friday, but do some extra stuff come the weekend to make up for it. Love you. Mean it. Talk to you soon.